our most anticipated board games at Essen Spiel 2023. Thank you for joining us here at Tantrum Mouse Studio D. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Melissa.
We are talking about our most anticipated board games at Essen Spiel 2023. And like we always do, we have to add more than 10, right?
Right. So we each have a list of 10, and there might be some honorable mentions as well. So 20 plus games are going to be talked about.
And there are a lot of other games that we won't be able to talk about, but we think are really amazing, and we actually talked about them in our Gen Con list.
So definitely check that out, because we tried not to have any overlap. So
yeah, hopefully I don't think we have any overlap, but there are a lot of really good games, and we wanted to spread the love. So Essen Spiel is coming up in October, just a few weeks away. Some of our team will be there. Jonah and Chantel, Will and Sarah will be there at the Inside Up Games booth. So if you're going to be there, definitely stop by and say hi to them. They'd love to see you. One more thing before we get started. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to talk about a couple honorable mentions.
Oh, right.
But also on the list, some of the games that we are going to talk about, we actually have played, and some we haven't played, and we'll let you know which ones those are as we get to those games. But first, honorable mentions. Melissa?
All right. So one of my honorable mentions is Maps of Mystera.
Okay.
It's from Sit Down Games, and I saw a quick preview of this at Gen Con.
Yep.
I believe Jonah actually has a copy of this game at his house.
Yeah, I think he's working on a video review of it.
So I personally have not played it. I think Jonah has, but at least from the description, it seemed very interesting. It's 1 to 4 players, about an hour long, and it's this grid map that's empty at the beginning, and you're kind of cartographers, and you're trying to map out what the area is going to be.
Sounds good.
And you can lay tiles and be like, oh, it's grass. But then someone else could come along and lay a different tile on top of that, and it might not actually end up being grass once it's completely done.
Yes.
And you have these personal goals, so you want your map to have certain things, and for those goals, it doesn't matter if that's really what it is, because it's like, oh, no one's gonna go, check to see that you've made a good map.
That's right.
But then you also do get points for having it correct, so there's that balance of trying to actually match the real terrain that's being built, but also have things line up for your goals.
Cool.
So that sounded interesting to me.
I'm also interested in that one as well. My honorable mention, I think you have one more, right?
I do.
Okay, but I only have one honorable mention, and that is Art Society from Mighty Boards. And that is for 2 to 4 players. Takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. The theme draws me in. Collecting art. Mm-hmm. And I think I was reading that you're sort of pattern building. So where you place them in your collection matters. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing to me is, I think you're bidding on getting these art pieces into your collection. But the pieces that aren't bid on or don't get collected in your collections as different players, they go into an art museum.
Ooh. And
that will then change what your collection is worth, or the popularity of your collection. They talk about trends in the art world. Okay. So that sounded really interesting to me, that
it's kind of fluctuating.
Yeah, what I don't pick will impact what I do pick for my art collection. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that is Art Society from Mighty Boards. One more.
Right. My next honorable and last honorable mention is Unfold, and Alley Cat Games is going to be bringing this. This is a demo, a very small version. So this is a 30-minute version or 20 minutes, whereas the actual game's an hour and a half.
Wow.
But it is kind of a deduction, escape room style game, but it's small, and as you figure out the puzzles and things, you unfold it, and it reveals other text and different things.
A little story going on, it looks like.
Yeah, story going on. So they have one, Unfold Dark Story. Now, it said demo on the list, but also Q4, so maybe it'll be there, maybe not. If not, I think at least the demo will be there. But I love exploring new types of escape room style games and mystery games. So I thought it was very interesting with the whole unfolding aspect.
It says 1+, so it looks like it's maybe geared toward the lower player count. I'm assuming more than one can play.
Right, and this is a small one.
Right.
The illustration of the big game has it as a larger thing, and it said 1 to 6 on BGG.
6 players.
But yeah.
Cool.
So that was my honorable mention, Unfold.
All right, without further ado, let's get to our top 10. Number 10. So my number 10 is Jokkmokk from WizKids. This is 1 to 5 player game. Takes about 45 minutes to play. Different kind of name, but it's all about a Swedish market. So the theme sounds kind of fun during the winter time, and it sort of has this like Christmassy sort of feel to it. So the theme draws me in, and the gameplay reminds me a little, as I was looking at the game, it reminds me a little bit of Tokaido. So you're going along a path and you're collecting things, and it has a circular market. So you're going around these stalls in the market and you're collecting different items to add to your collection. There's a sort of a set collection aspect to the game where you're trying to collect maybe the same kinds of things, but there's also a pattern building, which is you're also collecting them sort of like a quilt. You're making your own quilt as well. So you're collecting items, but you're also collecting pieces to add to a quilt, and it's got cool little designs to them. Probably has to do with the Swedish heritage and stuff like that. But so there's a lot of set collecting, and sort of like in Tokaido where the person furthest back goes, it sort of has that sounding feel to it as you are moving your players. So how fast do you want to go? What do you need? You know, but I want to get, I want to get more stuff and things like that in order to increase my sets and things like that. So that is Jokkmokk from WizKids. The theme school, the art design is definitely different. It's very bright and colorful and unique, I would say. So I'm interested in that.
Well, my number 10 is Quicksand from Horrible Guild. This is for 1 to 7 players.
Woo.
Plays in about 15-20 minutes. And it's a cooperative, real-time sand timers game.
So up your alley.
Well, okay, so this made my list because I actually played a demo of it at Gen Con. This is going to be a recurring theme in these lists.
This at Gen Con.
But it reminds me a little bit of Kites. But
From Floodgate?
From Floodgate. But the sand timers have different amounts of sand in them. And you are actually setting up scenarios with tokens along the board, like a path. And the token will have, I forget if it's a color or a symbol, maybe it's both. And you're playing cards from your hand. And say I play a red card, any sand timers that are on the red tiles, those are the ones that get flipped. So it's not like, oh, the red card flips the red sand timer. It's based on where they are on the path. And I don't think they can pass each other. So you have to, really think it's less of that frantic just flipping and more of a puzzly aspect of, oh, we need to move this one before we can move that one, and that one's about to.
It is a timed aspect.
It is real time though. So, but I would say not quite as frantic as something like Kites, but kind of that similar tactile cooperative nature. Quicksand from Horrible Guild. Number 9. So my number 9 is Ancient Knowledge from Yellow. This is for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 75 minutes, and it's mainly a card game. So you're going to have card drafting and hand management. The BGG entry said that there's endgame bonuses, and I like all of those things. It's based on kind of monuments in history. So ancient knowledge. You might have like the pyramids and
so real things.
Right, real landmarks that you are building and playing cards with. The theme and hand management, card playing sound very interesting to me. Sorry, that was a quick one.
That's right. Well, we're going to talk longer about the other ones.
True. The ones we've actually played.
So my number 9 is actually a game that we played. 12 Chip Trick Small Box. From Mandu Games.
We played this on our 12-hour stream.
Yeah, so if you want to see a live play of it, We did that just the other day. I'm not sure when this video is coming out, but you can go back and check it out. Melissa put timestamps in the 12-hour stream, so you can find it pretty easily. This is from Mandu Games. I'm always a fan of trick-taking games and ones that put a little twist on trick-taking games. This one doesn't have no cards. It's got chips, and only 12 chips. 2 to 4 players. 12 chip trick. I know, it's like, boom. The artwork is kind of really cute on this, but there's really not that much art in the game other than when you win a round, you get this little placard that has a cute little like animal, anthropomorphic animal. So anyway, to the game. The game is played over a series of rounds, but you really can play as many number of rounds as you want. We only played a few rounds on our live stream. In the game, you're trying to get 21 without going over. And how you do that is very interesting because you have 4 chips in your hand, and if you win it, if you are the person that wins the trick, basically high number is going to win the trick. But the chip that you take, there's some rules involved, so the chip that you take as the winner goes in front of you, and you can never use that chip again in a subsequent trick.
Right, and it is one that you will score at the end of the game.
Yeah, and everyone at the end of the game, the way the game works, you will have 4 chips at the end of the game, whether they're in your hand or a combination of ones on the table, and you're going to count up those values, and if you are over 21, you bust, and you're not even going to be able to be in the running to score. But then if you're 21 or under, whoever is closest to 21 or 21 is going to be the winner. Now, we played one game where, like, everyone busted, I think.
And I think there's some different variants and rules. If everyone busts, then you want to have the highest score. So there's kind of like, do I think everyone's going to bust? Right. Or do I think some people are going to be lower? Kevin, do you like this just because you won?
I won, no.
At least once or twice?
I've won a few times. Ryan did well the last time we played, but I was able to get 21. I just feel like very satisfied in that. The way I was able to manipulate the chips that I had in my hand. I had some lower ones to start with, which I think was helpful. So that I didn't win that many tricks. So I was like, if I can get like a 9 or a 10 at the end of the game, I'll be able to get 18 or 19. And then at the end, the last trick, there was 10, 11, and 12 chips out on the values. And I was like, I can actually get 20? What? Sarah was really upset because I think she had 20.
Oh, yeah. So Kevin had 21. Sarah had 20. I had 31. So not good.
So quick little game. You can, like I said, you can play a number of rounds. Easy to pull out, easy to play, and the component quality. I like that too. So that's 12 chip trick from Mandu. Number 8. Well, my number 8 is My Island from Cosmos. Now, I will say we actually have a copy of this in Tantrum House, but we haven't played it.
We have not played it. Some of the other team members have played it.
They have started playing it. They have not finished it. It actually is a sequel to My City, standalone game, but it's similar in that it plays 24 games. It's a legacy game. So I should have said that right away.
Right.
So My Island is a legacy game that plays over 24 games. Once you play it, that's pretty much it. But this is a 2 to 4 player game. Each game, they say, takes about 20 to 30 minutes. So I did talk briefly with the other teammates, and they said it has sort of a similar feel to My City, where you are sort of, unlocking things. The game starts off pretty simple and then grows and adds more variableness to what's going on, more, what's happening as you build My Island, whereas the other one was My City, building a city. This one, you're building an island.
Yeah, and there's some progressive things where you'll gain stuff as you win, or if you lose, you may get some other things that hopefully will help you along the way. I'm not sure about this one. I know My City had an eternal game that you could play after the campaign.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one might have that aspect as well.
Probably does. But I'm interested in playing it sometime. 24
games, yeah. Fitting it in the schedule.
Yeah, we have another legacy game we're playing right now that sort of has taken precedent, so that we're not mentioning here.
All right, so my number 8 is not a legacy game. Mine is Delta from Game Brewer. This is for 2 to 4 players, plays in about an hour and a half. I think this was on Kickstarter, so maybe it's getting ready to fulfill. Have not played this. it is a hand management game, action selection. You have characters, cards that you are sending to different areas, boards to do things.
Okay.
So
do you know
get
where the
resources.
name comes from? Delta. It sounds really it sounds like a river sort of.
Right. It's kind of a jungly sort of thing, but it's an alternate time period. So like steam engines, there are mechanimals. Mech animals.
Yeah.
So mechanized animals.
I understand.
Basically in it. So it has that kind of steampunky feel to the art and all of that. But it's the Delta region of Camargo.
Oh, okay. So it's a different region.
Right.
Cool.
So they're crystals that you use for the technology, and you're trying to discover more about them and learn about them, kind of archaeology and exploration type of thing. But yeah, characters, cards that you're sending to places to do the actions, collect things, and then there's some sort of like priority, majority thing going on there.
Cool.
That is Delta from Game Brewer. Number 7. So my number 7 is a small box card game. It's Knarr from Bombix. That's Knarr.
Thank you.
It's Viking themed.
Oh, cool.
And it's for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 30 minutes. And it's a card game where you are playing Vikings into your crew.
Okay.
And they have different colors and different actions or benefits when you play them. So on your turn, you're either playing a crew member into your tableau, and if it's the same color as crew members you already have, you activate all of them.
Oh, I like this
so
kind
you
of
get
games.
the benefits. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I played a demo of this at Gen Con. So then you get those benefits. Well, also, when you play a Viking, you then get to take one from the board, and they're in different slots. So if I play a red Viking, I take the card in the red slot.
Okay.
So you're thinking about what actions do I want?
Mm-hmm.
What card do I want? Because I would have to play a specific type or color to get that card. And then the other option, if you're not playing into your crew, you could go kind of on an expedition, explore a new destination, and there's going to be cards out that have requirements for certain types of crew members. Cool. And I believe that you do have to discard either all of them or some of them. But anyway, so you're also thinking about, I might need 4 different colors or 2 red and 2 green to go do this kind of mission or take this destination. So just a small box cards, but there were interesting things to think about with each play because it's going to affect multiple things.
Cool. My number 7 is Art Project.
Another art one.
Another art project. This is coming from the op. I think some other people will be selling it. Other companies will also be selling it at Essen, so it might just have other licensing or distribution, how that's all working. I don't really need to get into that. Right. We need to talk about the game. So our project, first of all, I will be upfront. No top 10 list is complete for Kevin's top 10 list. At least one game has my friend Vincent Dutray art on it. In it.
This is your Vincent Dutray.
Yeah. So first of all, I need to put that up front. So it did draw me in right away. The art project box cover and I think there's art also inside the box too. But your eyes are drawn to the box cover.
So I know you said your friend. Have you actually ever met Vincent Dutray?
I have met Vincent.
Oh, did he do a little drawing inside of Lewis and Clark or something?
Yeah, I think Discoveries actually. Discoveries. Yeah, so I met him at Gen Con a few years ago. I don't know if you remember Vincent. It'd be funny if he was watching. So anyway, this is a co-op game where 1 to 6 players, plays in about 40 minutes. You are a team of basically trying to save stolen art.
Okay, so not stealing the art, saving it.
Saving the art. And I believe in each game you're trying to save seven different art pieces. And you're completing missions in order to do that, and you're working together, collecting resources, using those resources in order to complete the missions to save the art. So, sounds interesting to me, looks cool. I personally like co-op games probably a little bit more than Melissa, so like working together as a team is fun. Trying to save art. So there we go. Art Project from the Up. Number 6. My number 6 is Havalandi. I hope I'm not murdering the pronunciation of that game. This is a game all about hot air balloons.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
The box cover. We just mentioned that in the last number 7. The box cover of this one is really, really cool. I was able to look at some pictures online inside the box. I don't know if the art of the box cover translate into the game pieces. I only saw a few pictures and it looks much more not mathematical, but just very hexagonal, and
it is a Reiner Knizia. Right?
It is a Reiner Knizia. He's all about how that all works. So Reiner Knizia, one of the most influential board game designers. Prolific, yeah. He's done hundreds and hundreds of board games, designed them. And so I'm interested in it. He does a good job with many of the games that he designs. So I'm interested in the gameplay where in the game you are trying to collect, trying to display your hot air balloons and group them together on the map, and where you're grouping them. And I think people are like looking at them or something like that in order to show them off. I think is really important how you're going to score points. Also in the game, it looks like the launching platforms, wherever you're launching your balloons from, are also coveted as well. So how that works, I'm very intrigued by. I don't know if I mentioned this is for 2 to 4 players and plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. So not too long, a good, board game length for me. I like that. Not one of those 3-hour, 4-hour long games. I mean, I'm okay with them, but this is just a nice, when you pull it out, play it. The theme's cool. Hot air balloons. There's not too many of them out there. I know I liked Islands in the Mist and things like that has a hot air balloon. I enjoy that theme. So
okay. Well, my number 6 is Printing Press from Grana. This is for 1 to 4 players, and it said 15 to 60 minutes, so I'm not sure if that's player count.
Yeah, it might be player count.
But this is kind of in the same world as Gutenberg.
I really like that game.
So Printing Press, Gutenberg, it looks like it has a lot of the same art style and types of pieces, but this is a smaller game.
Oh, okay.
It's action drafting and tile laying. So it looks like you have little rectangular kind of your press
cool.
sheets, plates, and then you're putting little tiles or strips in there with the different letters and designs, like is it italics or that sort of thing.
Okay.
So you're going to be laying the tiles out there to create the press plate to meet the needs of your customers. So
yeah.
I thought that looked interesting. I enjoyed Gutenberg.
I will be honest, this was going to be on one of the games on my list, but after we discussed it and you were also interested in it, I was like,
do it.
She stole it. I think she actually stole another game coming up soon too, but we'll get to that in a second.
Number 5. So my number 5 is ArcheOlogic from Ludonaut, and I stole this one from Kevin, so it was on his list, and I was like, oh, I meant to put it on my list, and then he gave it to me so we could talk about more games.
I think actually in the same number I stole this one from you. The next one.
Yes. So a little bit of trading and sharing.
I know.
This is for 1 to 4 players, plays in about 45 minutes, and it's a deduction game, which is why it fits so well onto my list because, that's my thing.
Yes. Logic deduction, not social deduction.
Yes, logic deduction.
We should always be.
Not social deduction.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a competitive deduction game where you're trying to find the exact location of buildings in a city. And I was looking at some pictures, and you have like a player screen, and then behind that you have a square, a rectangle, and there are polyomino type shaped tiles.
Yeah, you're laying down.
So you're going to have to figure out how to arrange those tiles in the frame. There's this really interesting
mechanism?
Yes, it looks kind of like a magnifying glass or like wand, and it has symbols around it. I think it turns, and so that's what you are asking questions isn't the right verbiage, but you're kind of checking things with that. It's called an Archaeoscope.
Makes sense.
Archaeoscope.
ArcheOlogic.
So, it's gonna help you deduce where things are. So, all I've seen is the BGG entry for it, but it's deduction. It's, logic deduction.
Yeah.
So, it looked very intriguing to me.
When I saw that, and one of the games that sort of like were in the same realm were like Search for Planet X or Search for Lost Species, and I was just like, I enjoy those kinds of games, and
I love them.
And she loves them. So it just seemed it was in that same sort of realm of game mechanic, because you're searching for a lost city or something in the game. So, well, my number 5 is Time Division. Still from you. This is a 2-player only game, and the game actually has 3 eras, but that's a little confusing because each era is its own game, and it says that you can play basically a campaign through the different eras, and
it's kind of like each one is its separate setup with cards and locations.
So you're drafting those cards, and then you're playing those cards, and sort of like trick taking in a way where high card wins. But the cool thing about the game is that there are effects on those cards and what those cards do in the game. Now, the 3 eras are Ancient Egypt, Dark Ages, and 80s. So,
Ooh, the 80s.
Yeah, so you said you played a demo.
Yes, I did. I played a demo of this at Gen Con. It was the Ancient Egypt.
Okay.
And it was really interesting with the cards because you do a draft at the beginning, so you know some of the cards that your opponent has because you've basically given them to that person. Yeah. And when you play them, the person who wins gets to decide whether, who activates the cards. So it may be like, I won, but I don't actually want to keep this card. I want the other player to activate it. Okay. So it was a very interesting, mental puzzle of trying to achieve your objectives, but sometimes it's better to let the other person win or make their card fire because it might actually be something bad for them. Right,
or maybe you have a card that you don't want to play because you're like, I'm probably going to lose, but I want this action or something like that. So the effect. This seemed really interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting the way the cards are moving, and some are getting put in a lost pile and some in a collect pile, and they interact in interesting ways. A little bit of that, what's he going to play? What am I going to play? And how's that all going to pan out?
That's Time Division. I don't think we mentioned the publisher, Heidelbar, and that is a 2-player only game. Number 4. Well, my number 4 is a game that I've actually we've played.
Yes.
It's Imperial Miners from Portal Games. This is a game for 1 to 5 players. Takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a tableau building game in the world, universe, whatever, of the Imperial settlers. So there's different factions, if you're familiar with this. There's the Atlanteans and the Barbarians and the Romans and all this kind of stuff. And those factions are in this game, but they're building mines, or excavating mines, I should say. Digging mines. There you go. And there's 4 levels of mine cards that you're placing in your mine. So there's this tableau building where level 1 cards go on level 1, level 2, level 3. Those cards have special benefits or bonuses or actions that you're taking when you place them, but depending on the level you place them, then you're activating, or there's this little chain reaction going on as you place a level 3 card, you're activating that card, then the card above it level 2, then the card above it level 1, and then you have your sort of above ground that also has a benefit as well. So you're sort of I really want this card, but I really want to do this chain to do that. So there's a sort of push and pull on where you're placing, what cards you're putting down in your tableau. There's also connections with gold mine carts, trying to get those because you get a lot of points from that. I remember Hannah played, she had 10 or 11 connected mine carts. And then there's different tracks that you're going up, which is a separate board that give you more benefits. Really, really fun. Plays pretty quickly, up to 5 players. So
yeah, and the whole Imperial Settlers, the art is kind of fun and whimsical. So they're doing funny things in the pictures. You just kind of look at them and it's cute and whimsical.
I also have a full review video of Imperial Miners if you want to check that out. So, on our channel.
Okay. So my number 4 is Terra Pyramides, I think.
Yeah.
From Korea. Yeah, sure. From Korea Board Games. It's actually designed by the duo of Kramer and Kiesling.
Nice.
So they're famous for lots of game designs.
Yep.
This is for 1 to 4 players, plays in about 40 to 90 minutes. And it's a tile placement game, which has endgame bonuses, which are things that I really enjoy.
Yep. What makes this different?
Well, I don't know. I haven't played it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're going to be placing a tile on the board and then activating the tiles in a line from the one that you just placed. So either a straight line or a diagonal line. So there's going to be, some puzzling out of where to place things to be able to activate things. Those tiles are going to give you resources, workers, maybe some powers or something like that you're trying to, chain together to do things.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm guessing since it says endgame bonuses, maybe, I don't know if there's a pattern building aspect to it.
Or what you have in your...
Or what you collect, sort of things. The BGG entry did say that the game has 2 modules or expansions that come with it. So at the base level, it's kind of family weight.
Oh, then you can add some more complexity.
Not as complex, but then it has some extra things that you can add on to make it a little meatier and maybe a little bit more strategic. Cool. So I like that when there's kind of the different levels so people can figure out their play style and what they like.
Cool.
And you're building pyramids.
Nice.
Number 3. So my number 3 is Amritsar, the Golden Temple from Ludonova. This is for 1 to 4 players, plays in about 1 to 2 hours. What really intrigued me about this one is it says it has a Mancala-like aspect. So I love games like 5 Tribes where you're placing the things out. So yes, one of my favorites.
Yep.
I don't know if it's exactly like that, but they did say you're kind of sewing things in a Mancala-like way. Cool. There's also a worker placement aspect. You're basically rebuilding the Golden Temple. You have an elephant that's going to help you carry your resources around.
Love it.
It looks like you have a player board that you can upgrade and improve. And I like those types of games where you have your own personal thing that you can, kind of design to your play style or upgrade so you get better things. So those were all things that kind of piqued my interest, and definitely the Mancala aspect with it.
Cool. My number 3 is a game that we played.
Ta-da!
Nucleum from Board and Dice. Before I get started, we have a full review video of this. Actually, like a 20-minute long.
Yes, we waxed a little eloquent.
So you can check that out on our channel if you want to hear a lot more. So I'm just going to get pretty brief here. This is in my top 3. I really, really like this game. This is a game where it has a lot of different mechanics in it. You're route building, there's action selection, there's energizing the building. So at its core, it is an action selection game. These action tiles that you're placing on your board are going to be able to activate like 2 different things on your turn. Those action tiles can get upgraded or you can
buy new ones.
You can buy new ones that are better. And I love that where you start with sort of the simple, like these are your 4 or 5 main actions, and then but if I get that one, that action's like even better, or that gives you a cool bonus or things like that. So
or a discount.
Those kind of things. I love that when you're sort of having a little bit asymmetricalness in the actual actions themselves compared to the other players. That is kind of fun. But the cool thing is those action tiles actually become routes on the main board, and you actually are building routes between different cities on the main board. You're building buildings from your board, from your player board. There's actually also an asymmetricness to the player boards as well. They're technology boards that you can get even more discounts and bonuses and one-time effects. And then you, like I mentioned, you're then energizing those buildings for a lot of cool stuff going on in the game. So that's it. Nucleum in like 30 seconds there from Board and Dice. Check out our full review video. Number 2. My number 2 is The White Castle from De Vere. Now, I need to be upfront. There is an embargo on the White Castle, so I'm not going to really be giving my thoughts and opinions here. I can tell you a little bit about what the game is, because how to play videos are allowed to be out.
And it is number 2.
And it is number 2. The review video will get out probably when the embargo lifts, the end of September. This is a dice placement game. And you're placing those dice out on the board. You're drafting the dice, placing those dice out to take actions, and that there's 3 different colors of dice, and which ones you take are going to matter. There is a mechanic where if you place a higher number of dice on top of a lower value, you're going to get income. If you place a lower value on top of a higher, you're going to have to pay income. So there's this little bit of push and pull. Or just resource management in that way with income. There are 3 different resource tracks that are going up, and then you have workers as well that are going out on the board to score your points, and that's where a lot of your points are coming from, or where you're placing your wooden workers out on the board, and where they go and how they interact with each other. Is the White Castle, like I said, you'll hear my full review coming in a few weeks.
All right, my number 2 is Evacuation from Delicious Games, and this is designed by Vladimir Sushi, and I enjoy a lot of the games that he's worked on. There's Praga, Kaput Regni, Woodcraft,
Underwater Cities,
Pulsar.
I need to play that again.
Yes, definitely. But those longer games sometimes are a little harder to get to the table.
Yep.
Anyway, this one is for 1 to 4 players and plays in 1 to 2.5 hours. So again, probably more. So again, a little bit more of a longer, thinky game. This one involves some hand management and some pick up and deliver. That pick up and deliver aspect is why this is not number 1 for me, because sometimes I struggle with that particular mechanic. I'm not sure how much of that it is, but the theme is kind of interesting. You're basically starting the game with like a full economy on the one planet, but you're evacuating the planet, so you have to, I guess, transport or get the resources and your production and building to the new one, and you can't mix the 2 sets of resources. Wow. So I think there's probably a timing and a planning aspect of, I need stuff here on the old planet to do some things, but then I need to get some stuff built on the new planet so I can do things there.
Crazy.
So that sounded interesting. You're selecting actions from your player board. You can add in cards for a more advanced game to give you more choices for those actions. And then I was reading, and this is kind of interesting, that basically it seems like there are 2 ways to end the game. You can either
blow up your planet, or
no, you can either raise the production level to like level 8 on 3 different tracks or whatever, and then you automatically win.
Okay.
If that doesn't happen, you finish out 4 rounds, and whoever has the most points wins.
Oh,
you could try to do the race thing for the automatic win, or you could try to do the points for that win.
Interesting.
So it sounded interesting. A lot of things going on, though.
Cool.
Number 1. So my number 1 is Rats of Wistar from Cranio
Your
Creations.
favorite animal.
Rats. Maybe not. They can sometimes be cute.
That's right.
In illustrations.
That's right.
Not in real life.
That's right.
So Simone Luciani is one of the designers for this, and I enjoy many of the games he's worked on, so that piqued my interest.
Cool.
It's for 1 to 4 players, plays in about 90 minutes, and I think worker placement is the main
Draws
mechanic.
me in too. Yeah.
So you're taking on the roles of rats who have organized an escape from the Wistar Institute. This kind of like has Rats of Nim feel.
I love Rats
to
of
it.
Nim. Yeah.
But it's the artwork is more like farm.
Okay.
Maybe not medieval, but it looks more homey.
Okay.
But so you're taking actions and you're trying to build beds and evacuate and solve missions, build things and complete achievements. It just seemed like an interesting, semi-whimsical theme. And I do like worker placement games.
You do. All right, my number 1 is Kutna, Hora, the City of Silver from CGE. This is a game for 2 to 4 players. It says it takes about 1 to 2 hours to play. I will say most of CGE's Euro games tend to be, especially like this,
a little heavier.
A little on the heavier side, so probably a little bit on the longer side. We'll see. I haven't played it. Did you see a copy of it at Gen Con?
I didn't play it, but kind of had a talk through kind of intro explanation.
This is a city building Euro game. So that's like the core aspect, what you're trying to do. You're trying to build the city of Kutna Hora. But there's this economic piece to it as well that says it has a dynamic, the economic piece. And so like a supply and demand to it. And
yeah, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while, but there were some stands and you either changed out the cards in them or something happened so it would change the value of for buying and selling.
That's cool. The double-sided cards, I like that as well. That sounds interesting. I don't know how that all works. And then there's asymmetrical player guilds. So that's cool. The theme where you're sort of mining ore and smelting it into silver. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and it's historic. That's what happened in that city.
Yeah, so you're growing the city of Kutna Hora, which is in Central Europe, and this quote sort of intrigued me. Everything is connected, and sometimes the path to personal victory relies on the prosperity of the many. So
might have to sort of work together
a little bit, but you're still trying to win. So this is a competitive game.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention that we saw kind of prototype components for was the rewood that they're using in the game.
Thank you for not forgetting that.
So it's I guess recycled in some aspect, but they were able to get really good designs. So the sculpting of it was really good.
It didn't look like cheap stuff.
No. It looked really nice and detailed. It's not like 3D printed or
cool.
So they felt good when you picked them up. So that's a very interesting new, I guess, process and component that some companies are looking into for their games.
Cool. Well, that was our top 10, 20-ish games. Now, there are hundreds of games. Melissa had mentioned BGG. Board Game Geek has a website that lists
several hundred. I had clicked at least 60 in my interested and then had to narrow it down to 10-ish. Yeah. But lots and lots of great games, lots of different styles, player counts, lengths, everything.
Themes, all that.
So many.
And so there might be games that we didn't mention. Check our Gen Con video first. But we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what games you find interesting from that list that might be being sold at Essen. I don't know if we were clear on that. I believe the list here that we had, we
tried to pick ones that said that they would be available. There's always the chance that something happens, but we tried to stick with those.
Right, but on the BGG list, you can see they say for demo, for sale. Most likely that's going to be pretty accurate because that's what publishers are putting into that. So, but let us know in the comments which ones you're really interested in. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if we've missed ones that you're really interested in that didn't make it on our list, what should have been there?
Please like this video. It really does help the channel out, and subscribe. Thanks for watching our top 10 list of board games that we are anticipating at Essen Spiel 2023.